Welcome to our small ball course. And as you can see, the title of the small ball course is Small Ball for Big Innings. So that should give you a little bit of a hint on our philosophy and what we try to do with it. This unit is going to be on our philosophy of small ball and kind of defining what small ball is. So first of all, what is small ball? To me, it's the process of using bunting, stealing, and hit and runs to put pressure on the defense and create big innings. So again, we're not trying to make outs. We want big innings here. It's also a set of calculated risks that give you the best chance of increasing your chances of scoring runs, and it really runs in bunches. So one of the things that we stress in our program is we want to score 3 or more runs in an inning as many times as we can. And if we're giving up outs all over the place, then I don't think that we're really giving ourselves a chance to create big innings. And so the key word on this slide is calculated risks. And in this course, I'm going to show you some of the tools that we use to calculate when we should bunt, when we should hit and run, when we should steal, and all those kinds of things. So that's really, I think, maybe going to be the main thing that a lot of you get out of this is the when of doing this so that you can maximize your chances of scoring lots of runs, because that's what we like. We want to score lots and lots of runs. Here's what small ball is not. To me, small ball is not trading outs for 90 feet, or if you are a younger level coach, 70 feet or 80 feet. I don't think that's a fair trade. I don't think that moving up one base giving up an out is a fair trade for me as an offensive coach. Again, we want to create big innings. If we have runners at first base and nobody out, and we bunt the runner to second base, we now have 1 out and a runner on second base. And to create a big inning, we're going to have to string together a whole lot of hits in a row, or the defense is going to have to make some kind of mistake from there. So we don't want to necessarily trade an out for 90 feet or for a base. We don't want to create passive players. A lot of people use their bunting game as very passive. Give yourself up. Okay, make an out to move a runner over. We don't want to make outs. I would never tell one of my players to make an out. Don't make outs. Create havoc. Make something happen by putting the defense in a tough position. And we've done this at a time in the game when we know it's going to be effective. Small ball is also not taking unnecessary risks on the bases. A lot of times people say, well, we are an aggressive team. We put pressure on the defense. That's great, and we love to do that also. But there's a difference between being aggressive and taking unnecessary risks. Stealing in bad situations, stealing with runners who shouldn't be stealing, trying to take extra bases when it's unnecessary. And then the last thing that small ball is not is recklessly putting on plays to try to make something happen. This has happened several times in my career, and I've definitely been questioned by people for this, and I will stand by this until my philosophy changes, quite honestly. People will, on a game where we don't hit, or we don't generate much offense. Let's say we score 1 or 2 runs, and people look back at the game and they say, well, they didn't bunt at all, they didn't try to steal at all, they didn't try to hit and run at all, they didn't try to make anything happen. And my response to that would be that we didn't have an opportunity to make anything happen, that the numbers did not add up in our favor. And I felt like if we tried to, quote, make something happen by stealing or hitting and run or bunting just to try to make something happen, I felt like we were just going to give away precious outs, because when you're not hitting, outs are even more precious because you have fewer of them. And if you have 21 outs in a game and I try to make something happen and I give away 3 outs, now we only have 17 outs, or we have 18 outs, or whatever the case is. So we really try to protect our outs even in our small ball, even when we're doing small ball. So here's our basic philosophy of small ball. Bunting, again, we're not trying to make an out. We certainly don't want you to bunt the ball right back to the pitcher. And later on in the course, you'll see our bunting philosophy and how we try to put pressure on the defense. But the idea is we want to make the defense make tough plays. Okay, we want to put pressure on them in the right situation so that they have to make an uncomfortable play in the bunting game. The ideal situation for us is that the defense makes an error. That is, when we get to our bunting hierarchy, you'll see that is the number one thing that we want. We call it put a quarter in the merry-go-round. So you lay down a bunt, and all of a sudden players are circling the bases. There's mass chaos on the field. Defenders are chasing the ball into the bullpen. That's the ideal situation that we want. And also in our bunting game, we don't want to put players in situations where they don't have choices. And specifically, I'm referring to two plays that some coaches use. One of them is the bunt and run, and the other one is the suicide squeeze. And as we get into the bunting course a little bit farther, I'll explain to you why I don't like the bunt and run, and why I don't like the suicide squeeze, and why we will probably never run either of them. Our goal for stealing, our philosophy on stealing, is we want a high stolen base percentage. We have been able to have, over the last several years, an 88% stolen base percentage. Okay, so again, we don't want to make outs on the base paths. Our goal is to have 80% or higher every year on our stolen base percentage. Major League Baseball has a, quote, break-even point that has statistically been figured out, and I think it's somewhere around, the low 70s. I'd have to look that up specifically to see, but, that in the high school game, where the run scoring environment is higher, where there's more runs scored, we need a higher stolen base percentage. Or if you're making more outs, you're essentially taking runs away from your team. So don't look at the total number of steals. Look at your stolen base percentage. You need to be above 80%, and I'm considering changing that to 85% for our team, just because 80, we've never once been below 80 since we've started really looking at this. So in our stealing game, our running game, we teach players how to get jump. We teach them how to read pitchers, and as they get older and more confident, we give them more choices. So I don't necessarily tell our players when to steal. I more or less tell them when not to steal, and then I try to teach them how to get good jumps. And that's all stuff that we'll cover when we get to the stealing component of it. Our hit and run, we are really limited in the use of our hit and run. Again, it takes decisions away from hitters, and to me, I don't like to take decisions away from hitters. I don't want to force a hitter to swing at a 1-0 breaking ball in the dirt because I put a hit and run on. It also can put the runner in a bad spot, but it can be effective if run at the correct time. And if it is run correctly, it's going to put runners at first and third, and it could result in a big inning. So I certainly do think there is a place for a hit and run. It's just got to be at the right time. Our next lesson, our next unit in this, is going to be on bunting, and we're going to cover our bunting philosophy, the timing, the technique, how to bunt for a hit, and then safety squeeze and suicide squeeze. And again, I mentioned I don't really like suicide squeeze very well. I will cover it, but then I'll kind of explain why we don't use it very much. So thanks for checking out our course. You can expect these to be released, every couple weeks. We'll open up a new unit for you to check out. If you ever have any questions on anything, feel free to contact me, Kyle at CornerstoneCoachingAcademy.com.